Hello and welcome to another very exciting special edition of the Pittsburgh Steelers show on the SteelerFury.com podcast. I'm your host, Wil Masisak, sometimes known as Accidental Zen on Twitter or Bradshaw to Ben on the Steeler Fury message boards. And I have a very special guest today, someone that you may be familiar with and maybe more familiar with a month from now. His name is Eli Heidenreich from Navy. How are you, Eli?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
When word gets out that somebody from Pittsburgh is actually a legitimate NFL prospect or a successful college football player, it's like the buzz in the city. Now, so when you walk down the street in Mount Lebanon, do people recognize you? Do they know all about you?
I'll definitely get some approaches here and there. I think I'm a little more unassuming compared to some other NFL prospects, so not as many as you might think.
But you're not like 6'6", 300 pounds, because that
Exactly.
people are like, hey, you must play in the NFL. Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm going to start with, if it's okay with you, a little Pittsburgh quiz, since we're both from Pittsburgh. I'm from your rival high school, Bethel Park, which these days I'm sure Upper St. Clair is more of the rival, but in my day, that was really the only thing that mattered. Only game that mattered all year was Mount Lebanon. So you're from my rival. I got to ask you some Pittsburgh questions. The first one is, what's your go-to at Permanis?
I've always just gotten the Pittsburgher, the sandwich.
Oh,
So I think that's pretty fitting, you know.
it's Pittsburghish, yeah. No, I'm
Yeah.
a I'm a egg and cheese or fish, but I'm just old school. That's what, like, their first sandwich, I think, was like that egg and cheese. All right, that's a good go-to. What's your favorite Pittsburgh attraction, like tourist attraction or thing to see do when you're in the city?
I'm gonna go with the classic Kennywood, especially growing up. There's not much better than like a summer day at Kennywood.
Now they just do they still have all three old roller coasters, or they just have like they still have like the what was the one that makes you the bounce that makes you bounce in the middle, like you catch air on the way down?
So there's the Racer,
Yeah. Oh yeah,
I
that's a
think, and
great.
then there's the Phantom's Revenge too.
Oh yeah, Thunderbolt,
Thunderbolt,
and
yep,
Racer.
that's
Yeah,
still around.
yeah. But which roller coaster is your since you're a Kennywood guy?
I'd say the Racer. That one was always fun. Get on there and like your family might be on the other side, and it's always fun. So
I thought I had it nailed when I was a kid. I figured out which roller coaster always won, the Racer. And so I'd be
hmm
like, catch that one. It's the get on the left, get on the left.
yeah.
Anyway, all right. Favorite Pittsburgh Pirate of all time?
Um, I'd say Kutch growing up. His prime, I think, was when I was a kid. So it was always fun watching him going to the games and in the summer. I think PNC Park is the best stadium in the MLB. It's beautiful down there.
Kind of amazing place. I got to see Roberto Clemente play live at Three Rivers. So that's how
Wow.
old I am. You like you heard about him in the history books in black and white. Favorite Pittsburgh Penguin?
Um,
Everybody's going to expect you to say Sid, but you don't have to.
yeah. I think I'll go with Malkin. He just has some of his like there are some goals he had, especially in like the playoff run and like what was it, 17? Maybe what, 16, 17, 18,
Yeah,
whatever
that
years there. He was incredible. I'll say Malkin.
yeah, he won the Conn Smythe, I think, that year. Yeah, and he's also my favorite Penguin. So good for you. And then last one, favorite Steeler.
Of all time. I'll say this one's a little bit different. James Harrison. He was my first Steelers jersey. And I remember I was just old enough watching the Super Bowl where we beat the Cardinals and seeing his 100-yard pick six. So, like the next year, I asked my dad for a James Harrison jersey and he got
Had to
me
have
one.
the jersey. Yeah, all right. Well, those are good choices. So you go from the WPAL to Navy. I guess the first question is, before I ask you about life at Navy, because that's a little different from what most people know, a college experience. But what made you want to go to Navy? That's, I guess, the first question, to a service academy.
Yeah, so there were a bunch of things that went into it. And then I'll start with football. So you look at Navy, it's a story program, a lot of history, and then the Army Navy game was huge for me. So having the opportunity to play in that game every year was awesome, especially in high school. Just thinking about that, and then on the flip side of things, for me, this school it's really complete, and I mean that in the sense that it develops you in pretty much every way you'd want it to. So academically, and then the way this school develops you as a leader and an individual. were just things that were really important to me. And then the opportunity to go serve afterwards was something that, when I was first looking into it in high school, something that I wanted to go do.
Yeah, I think you're either the kind of kid that's like when you're in high school, it's like you think it's the last thing you want to do, or it's something that you just are motivated to do. So that's pretty cool. But you chose a challenging path, which is I don't know. I think that's a good thing in life in general. I wish more young people understood the benefits of choosing a challenging path, right? Because you've named some of them, but the so what's the hardest part about academy life?
Um, that's a tough question. There's a lot that goes into it, but honestly, I would say the academic load at times is really it's really strenuous, and it just puts a lot of stress on you, especially in season. You're taking 18 to 20 credits, and just figuring out a way to kind of balance your schedule that you're able to excel in football and school. It's a lot of time. So I would say the academic side of things.
Yeah. What are you studying? What's the most interesting thing you're studying or have studied?
So I'm a cyber operations major. And funny enough, there's a bunch of my teammates and kind of like my best friends are also cyber majors. And the thing about Navy is such a small school, so I've had so many classes with them. It's kind of been nice. But the most interesting thing that I've learned, my favorite class, was called Human Factors in Cyber Operations, and it kind of just discussed like the psychology of why people operate the way they do on the internet or just with computers. So it's really fascinating. You talk a lot about kind of like phishing and the way that people are kind of like manipulated online by I guess you could say bad guys. So it was
Yeah.
pretty interesting to learn all about that.
Yeah, and it feels like that's a even for people who understand what phishing is and are wary about it, still get hooked because they figured out the psychology of how to make it all happen, right?
No doubt.
That's cool. So, what would you say is the biggest difference in you as a person from when you arrived at Annapolis and when you're going to leave here soon?
Um, I think generally speaking, I think I've grown a lot as a leader. And that's the entire point of this school is to, turn you into a leader that's going to go lead sailors and Marines in the, Navy or Marine Corps. So I think just learning about the idea of leadership, there's so much that goes into it. We've taken three different classes throughout our time here that just called leadership. And you're assigned to different leadership roles throughout your time here to expose you to these situations and develop you. So I think that's the biggest thing, that I've kind of progressed at throughout my time here.
Well, those are good things to carry with you because that applies to everything you'll ever do,
No,
right?
no, absolutely.
Well, you made a good choice. Well, let's talk football for a second. So you mentioned before Army Navy, and I want to walk you through or have you walk us through the highs and lows of the end sequence of this year's Army Navy game because I'll start with the ball that was thrown a little bit behind you and end up being an interception. Just where you were at that time, and then take us through to the end because a lot of stuff happened in the last few minutes.
hmm Yeah, that was the lowest I felt in that game. It wasn't even close. Um, I initially I thought because he took it back and it looked like it was a pick six, and I think if they would have scored there, we would have had a hard time coming back just with the situation that we were in. So I thought that when he went and scored for a second, I was really concerned.
Yeah.
And then he didn't. We stopped him, and they only got 3 points out of that. And I think that kind of gave us just a little bit of a spark and what we needed. And then I don't think we really did it much. And then our defense forced a turnover. Phil Hamilton got a pick, and he gave us, one drive to go down the field and score. And that's exactly what we did. But that drive was not easy at all. We were moving pretty good down the field, and then we get to like the 10-yard line, and we just kind of hit a little wall. The first play. I don't want to mix up the sequence of plays, but I think it was the first play. Uh, we have a sneak, and I think we're on like the 2 or 3 yard line, and out of nowhere, one of the Army linebackers both fantastic players, jumps over the line and punches the ball out of our quarterback's hands, and it's on the ground. Um, and miraculously, Alex Texa knocked it out of the defensive end's hands, and I was there just quick enough to get on top of the ball.
Yeah.
So we get it back, but then it's like second, or I think it's third down. I think it's like third and goal at like the 10-yard line. So we're not in great standing with field position. We don't convert on the third down, so now it's like fourth and around 10 yards
Yeah.
out. And
What
you know,
at that time you're thinking, like, are you? I mean, you're thinking, I want the ball, right? I mean, that's what
absolutely,
that's what you have to be thinking at that point,
yeah.
right? But was it a
I,
play
I
called for you?
it was. You know, I don't know if the Coach Cronic, our offensive coordinator, necessarily called it for me, but I think me and Blake knew the second it was called that the ball was coming to me, and it was it's pretty simple. It was really just you needed two seams by the two slot receivers and to the field, which I was on. I was the one that had the option to bend it inside if there was no help in the middle, and there wasn't. So it took 5 steps, made a quick cross across the safety, and was open and gave me good football, and the rest is Navy football history.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, that's got a Navy memory that's going to be around for a long time. People will be talking about that play, and I don't know. It's just like when you lined up, we saw the leverage of the defensive back. I'll bet you thought in your head, having been a receiver myself, is like when you see that the guy's giving you, he's basically handing you the middle of the field. You must have really, at that point, you're like, please just get it to me, just get it to me, right? So,
It didn't make much sense how they were playing that, but I'm not going to complain.
well, hopefully they'll use better strategy when after football life from that branch of the service when they when it matters more.
Yeah.
Uh, so let's talk about this. Your usage at Navy. Well, first of all, everyone's usage at Navy compared to most schools is going to be a little different because
Mhm.
you guys are doing some things on offense that are more, I don't know, for lack of a better word, they're sort of more team oriented, more discipline oriented than, like, a lot of teams run spread offense and it's like everybody has an option route and it's a quick look from the quarterback and whoever's got a good matchup gets the ball. But you guys are doing more intricate stuff. So that two things about that. Tell me a little bit about what practicing to all the versatile roles that you have, what that's like. And then I wanted to talk about how they see you at the next level, how you see yourself.
Mhm. Yeah, practices for Navy football are pretty brutal some days. Putting a lot of mileage on our legs, just that's the nature of it because we do so much in our offense across the board.
Yeah.
And for me, I have to kind of practice almost like a receiver and a running back. And I think my position coach, Coach Cole, did a great job of doing that. Indy, I feel like we would make sure we got a little bit of running back going and a little bit of receiver work going. We got a good mix of everything. But I think it was just an up tempo practice structure that allowed me to kind of cram all these different skills and working on these skills into those practices. Um, but at the next level, I see myself doing a very similar thing and kind of having giving the offensive coordinator some kind of like creative freedom to move me all around. I think I'll be based in kind of one position, whichever the team sees me playing, either more of a receiver or more of a running back. But having the freedom to kind of move away and do different things. That's how I see myself.
Yeah, I feel like the way you practiced at Navy is going to be an advantage for you because that's a big jump for most athletes coming from college football to pro football, is that the practice structure is so fast paced and you got to cram a lot of stuff. You got to learn a lot of stuff right away. So
Mhm.
hopefully that's a plus. I mean, me personally, I look at you and I think the value of a running back who can do the kinds of things you can do in the receiving game is in
Mhm.
the NFL that's like a premium thing. And I'm sure you've seen the comparison, you've seen the side by sides with your pro day workout and Christian McCaffrey. It's like, can you, in your head, does he seem like a similar player to you? Or does it seem like just the crazy talk?
No, I absolutely see myself, similar to him. He's someone I try to emulate. You know, I watch his film and watch the way that he runs routes, and I watch the way he plays the game. And he's someone that I've looked up to for a super long time, and absolutely someone that I compare myself to.
Yeah. I mean, So I read somewhere that in an interview of yours or saw you talking that most of the NFL teams are talking about you as a slot receiver, which I get. People like that too, but I wonder if are there teams that are sort of more looking at you to keep your versatility or perhaps even be primarily a running back?
There are a large chunk of teams that are looking at me more as a running back. I've honestly I've seen a pretty even split of the teams that I've talked to so far. I think I've spoken with more running backs coaches than I have receivers coaches. It really just depends on the team, and how they view me. But yeah, I've definitely a large portion of the teams I've talked to looking at me as a running back.
Are you? I don't know if any of them have told you not to say that they've talked to you, but have you? This is a Pittsburgh Steelers show, so the $1 million question is: Have are you? You're a local visit for the Steelers. Have you made a plan, or have you seen them?
So we were trying to figure out a plan for me to come up and visit on the weekend. It's just because with my school schedule, it's really hard to get out of class. So um, we weren't able to have a in person meeting, but we're gonna have a virtual meeting before the draft.
Great. I'm sure they're kind of familiar with you, would be
Yeah,
my guess. They tend to know the people that are locals, and I'm sure everybody is kind of celebrating your success. I think that's the great thing about playing at a service academy. It's like if you're successful there, you got a lot of fans, and that part's great. Speaking of which, there are. Well, I still have you for a minute. You have a couple of other teammates at Navy who are NFL prospects or have a chance to do something at the next level, get a look. Tell me a little bit about them. What's their strengths? Why should a team be interested in the guys you play with?
absolutely. Yeah, we'll start with Alex Texa. He's my longtime best friend, but
Yeah.
my partner in crime, both on and off the field for a long time now. And you look at Alex, he's one of the just kind of most like water bug like running backs I've ever played with. He's quick as could be and changes direction, um, you know, extremely quickly. And I think too in the receiving game he does some similar things to me where he's he gets out in space and makes things happen. There's a handful of plays on his film where he does a really good job of that. So I think he's a very kind of well-rounded back, and he does every area of being a running back proficiently. And then Landon Robinson, he's our D tackle. He's an All-American. Yeah, he had a heck of a season for us on defense. And again, he's a. I think the biggest thing about him is you look at his athleticism across the board.
Yeah.
He has some of the best defensive tackle testing numbers, that we've seen in the last 10 years, coming out of college. He's quick, he's strong as could be, and he just he plays D tackle in a way that's hard for offensive centers and guards to get their hands on him. So he's a strong player. And then Blake Horvath, I think he's our another guy too. He's our quarterback. Just a fantastic athlete. He's getting a good handful of looks, and we'll see what happens with him.
So you get tackled by Landon in practice?
It was rare. I think he has maybe one or two on me. But yeah, he's definitely not someone you want to see in the hole.
No, are you going to play both ways at the next level? What do you think?
I think it depends on the team. Some teams,
He could though, right?
he absolutely could. I've done some workouts with him. Um, with him as fullback, and it's honestly kind of frightening seeing him carry the football. He moves way too well for how large he is. Like it's impressive. So I could absolutely see him excelling at whatever they need him to do.
Yeah. Well, I recall in a sort of 4 minute offense where you guys are trying to run out the clock, him playing fullback and you playing on the wing, and you making a
Hmm.
down block and him coming across, and the two of you just erase the whole side of the line. So
Yeah,
it's got to. I can imagine him being a fullback when I see that, and can imagine you being able to do whatever you want to do in this league. Eli, I really appreciate you being with us. I know that you were short on time, but I just wanted to say personally, I sure hope you end up with the Steelers because I feel like even though they have a couple of running backs, you offer something that they don't, and the idea of you being a weapon in the pass game as well. So I'm wishing you luck primarily because I'd like to see you for the team I root for. What
sure.
would you think about being a Pittsburgh Steeler? That's the last question.
Yeah, I'd be honored. I've ever since I was a baby, I've been cheering for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the city of Pittsburgh has given me so much already. I feel like I'm the biggest advocate for the city when I'm away. I talk about it like it's the best city in the world, which I honestly believe. So it would be fantastic to suit up in the black and gold and be able to represent this city.
Eli Heidenreich, you couldn't have said it better than I would have said it. Thank you very much for being with us, and really, really, really appreciate it. Good luck to you on your journey, wherever it leads you. If you're a Steeler, you got to come back. So,
Yes, sir. Yes,
all right.
sir.
Thanks again.
Awesome.
Bye
Thank
now.
you for having me.